Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining today's webinar. We're going to get started at the 2-minute mark and give people time to join the webinar. But in the meantime, you can see the awards that we're very thankful to have won over 2021, including the Top 100 HR Tech Influencer Award, the Startup Miami Herald second place with over 500 submissions, of over 1,600 submissions, first place for the HR Solution of the Year by Remote Tech, and a 2-time winner of the Top HR Tech by Talent Culture. So you can look over those awards in the meantime, and we will see you at the 2-minute mark to get started on today's webinar over using Psychometrics to make better hires more quickly. All right, everybody, thank you again for joining today's webinar over using Psychometrics to make better hires more quickly. My name is Vita Sternberg, and it is my pleasure to be serving as your moderator and host today. I'm coming to you from Austin, Texas, where the weather is fine. I hope you're having good weather as well. I know it's cold, or we've got cold fronts coming in. Today, we've got a 30-minute presentation before a 10 to 15-minute Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions at any time during today's presentation, please feel free to use the GoToWebinar question queue, and we'll answer them during the presentation, or if we don't have time for the Q&A session at the end. If you'd like to reach out to me directly about any questions around Humantelligence, webinar questions you don't have time for, or future webinar topics, feel free to email me directly at vita.sternberg@humantelligence.com, or chat me on LinkedIn. You can search my name, or you can search for Humantelligence on LinkedIn as well. So for now, I'm going to hand things over to Humantelligence CEO Juan Betancourt for today's presentation. He's going to walk you through the agenda, and then we'll get things started.
Thank you, Vita. In today's agenda, we're going to go over the goal of what you should walk away with from today. We're going to focus on the challenges and benefits of using psychometric testing in your hiring process, whether you're a large corporate organization, Fortune 500, or a small mid-sized company from startup to 500 employees. We're going to show you what this BMW framework is, basically looking at personality tests that measure behaviors, motivators, and work styles. Some of those you might know already, and some might be new to you. And then just as important as the actual assessment tool, it's also looking at what technologies deliver these assessments in a way that's part of your process and can save you time, and that makes it part of your workflow. So that's an important concept here. For the last 50 years, assessments by themselves have been used for recruiting, but they're clumsy, it's hard to integrate. And so now there's companies that are combining an assessment with technology, and you should understand how that works. And so we'll talk about how to leverage technology for your recruiting process and finish with some Q&A. So today's goal, we really would love for you to walk away knowing how to leverage psychometric data and technology to better assess candidates so you can more quickly add to, fill gaps, and ensure diversity of thinking on your teams. And what I mean by that is, using assessments and technology will reduce your process by sometimes even as much as 80%. So you don't have to interview 30 people. You can go straight to the 5 that should be the best candidates. You'll know what to look for, not just who you like, but conversely, who you might not love in the interview process, but who would actually be adding culture and diversity of thought to the team. Some roles you do want to clone and have all the same. And some roles you definitely do not want to just keep hiring more of the same. Harvard Business Review magazine, April 2017, had a front page article around the culture problem where people hire who they like, and at the end of the day, that leads to underperforming teams. Next. So inclusivity has been a buzzword for a while. DEI has been out there now for 3-4 years where it's kind of mainstream. Obviously, it's been around for 10 or 15, but most companies have been focusing on hiring around the D, the diversity, and the equity, the E, on compensating different groups the same. And that's great, and we need more of that. However, the one area, the I, that's not getting much attention, budget, or understanding is inclusivity. When they poll, I think a McKinsey study on DEI from this 2021 showed that 79% of HR leaders feel that diversity and equity are being addressed somewhat properly, but that inclusion, only 19% of them feel that inclusion is even being addressed at all. And so inclusivity is one challenge that I think with psychometrics and with technology, you can actually, through your recruiting process, impact the ongoing culture and organization and their inclusivity and the ability to be inclusive at the individual level and as a group through tools like this. And so Glassdoor shows that diversity and inclusion is also great or top priority for potential employees. How do you hire to be more inclusive when often hiring is based on who you like, right? Some companies that are clients of Humantelligence, for instance, are future thinking. And so Coca-Cola, BASF, Honda, Ashley Furniture, Merck, Aflac, Bank of the West, they all realized a few years ago that to be more inclusive, it's not just doing training programs of existing employees, it also starts with hiring. And so they realized that by hiring diverse candidates and showing through psychometrics how people are different, they decided not to rely on a manager or a team to say, oh, we like this person, let's hire them, but to use psychometrics to show that a team might be filled with all mavericks and really creative, innovative people, but that maybe they need more process and stability-oriented people. And so they're using tools like Humantelligence to not only be able to filter thousands of applicants for a role, but quickly through the test instead of interviews, but also when they do get to their final 5 or 10, they actually set the system to only show people who are different from the hiring manager and the team, guaranteeing a more inclusive way of hiring. And then once those people are on board, a more inclusive way of working together, because they know through data that there might be friction, and that's okay. They want people to think differently. So these are some of the forward-thinking companies that have been extremely successful in DE and I, as well as just overall performance, who are using psychometrics and technology for hiring. Next. We all know that in 2020 and 2021, recruiting got harder. Why? Well, 42% of people say they're going to look for a different job if they can't work remote or hybrid. In the UK, 73% want that hybrid work arrangement, and only 7% want to go back to the office. I think all of us sitting on this call feel the same. 87% of US workers want to continue at least 1 day a week remote, and 68% prefer a hybrid workplace model. There's more competition, right? It's harder to find people in your area. So now if you don't have things like psychometrics and technology, you're not going to be able to expand your net to hundreds, if not thousands of applicants, but you just can't scale the interview process and the face-to-face and the phone screens. You need now technology to be able to compete against all companies, not just the ones in your industry, in your city. But if there is a financial institution in Nebraska, they're now competing against companies all over the country hiring for that talent in Nebraska, and they need to now be able to get access to all those people around the country quickly. And psychometrics and a technology that can scale the use of psychometrics in a very workflow way connected and integrated to your Workday, SuccessFactors, UKG, ADP, iCIMS, Taleo, Lever, etc. Those tools and those psychometric uses will help those companies succeed. Next. So the key challenges to summarize: connecting and communicating remotely away. It's hard to do when you're not interviewing in person, and so you don't even see or meet these people. How do you evaluate their fit and their personality through only phone or someone's name on a screen? The time it takes to sift through a resume, it's not the same. Okay, you won't have time to go through the 2,000 people who apply on LinkedIn or through your website. How would you ever get through that in an efficient, objective, equitable way without subjectivity and people projecting their own biases? Well, it's psychometrics. You can solve it through that. Third bullet point: assessment tools traditionally have been expensive, time consuming, and delivered manually and not comprehensive enough to provide actionable insights. That has all changed in the last 5 years. And lastly, the challenge of ensuring culture fit for long-term retention and success. Culture has now been defined. It's no longer about if people are happy or sad. It's no longer about giving benefits. It's no longer about getting days off of work or vacation. Culture is truly the behaviors, the motivators, and the work styles of a company and of a team and of an office location. And now you can literally get a visualization and mapping on the team, the office, or the company, and then for all the applicants, get a number 0 to 100 if they're similar or different. And so depending on your strategy, that last bullet point, you now can solve. You can ensure culture fit for either cloning what you have if you want more of it, or if your strategy is for diversity of thought and having different kind of problem solvers on the team, you can actually guarantee that you're hiring someone who is different, all with data. It's the first time it's ever happened, not through subjective hiring and interviewing. Next. So the benefits of using psychometrics are that it eliminates the subjectivity of the process. It reduces time to hire by 80%, yet allows you to go to 10 times as many applicants. So you can just give a link and a 12-minute test, you can have 1,000 people take it from all over the country to find the perfect fit for this team or this challenge. It accelerates onboarding. So when somebody does join, whether they're similar in terms of fit or they are complementary in terms of that fit being you're looking for someone different, you'll be better able to have that person up and running and working with the boss, working with the team, and working cross-functionally, because everyone will understand each other as if they've worked together for 8 to 10 months, but in the first 8 to 10 days. It improves team collaboration. It improves performance through hiring. So now you could actually have a better profitability and lower turnover just because your talent acquisition team is using tools like this. And it fosters innovation by adding this diversity of thought. You guarantee that teams will be more creative and innovative and not do more of the same thinking, because people typically just hire who they like and who they're comfortable with. Next. So what is BMW? It's not the car, although I loved that car back in the 80s when I was in high school. Never owned one, maybe one day. BMW stands for the behaviors, the motivators, and the work energizers of a culture of an organization. And that can be at the team level, not just at the company aspirational level of values they put on the website. We did not come up with this definition. We actually created a platform to enable and make possible the management of culture defined as BMW. We give the credit to Deloitte, and we give the credit to PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, who define culture and all of their millions of dollars of research as being the behaviors, motivators, and work energizers of a company. And so the behaviors drive your culture. It's kind of how people will act or react to the demands of the role. There are tools out there that measure behaviors, different psychometric tools. Ours is one of them, but you should also be aware of strength finders, predictive index, Psychometrics hits on this a little bit. Berkman, Caliper, MBTI somewhat. Some are more validated by science, others are not. But 90% of the tools
really focus out there on behaviors and only behaviors. However, companies using those realize that it's just not enough. You also have to focus and learn and understand when you recruit and manage teams about the motivators or values that initiate a culture. How are people motivated to complete the work or perceive the work? And so there are tools out there that also touch those. Battery of tests and assessments by SHL, TTI, Hogan, Lominger. Okay, great tools, scientifically validated, as is ours as well, Humantelligence. So I would look into those different tools as well. Okay, and then thirdly, there's the work energizers that sustain a culture, how people are energized from the types of work they do, whether creative, for example, on one extreme, or structured on the other in terms of process procedure. This is really kind of what holds everything together at an organization that a lot of people see on the surface as culture, right? We work in an advertising agency. There's no process, no procedures, you know, and it's shoot from the hip and it's very reactive, right? Versus, but very creative, right? Versus, you know, like a manufacturing line, or, you know, Baxter Pharmaceutical that's, you know, got continuous improvement process, PMO, and everything is process, right? The two extremes. So what's interesting is that's the state of a psychometric tools or psychometric tests. When you evaluate them, you should make sure that they're scientifically validated. If they don't give you a technical validation manual, run for the hills, because you cannot use it for recruiting if they don't have that completed. You should make sure it's EEOC compliant and that it's passed all the adverse impact studies, so it does not discriminate against any class of group of people. So that's very important. Now, one big change that's happened with software, although there have been tools like the ones I've mentioned that do behaviors, another 10%, 90%, 10% do motivators, not many get into the work energizers. And so a tool that does all three is a lot more rare. Now, more important, and what makes these tools either actionable and useful or a pain, to be quite honest, is have they built a software platform and the API technical integrations with your existing systems. Nobody at your company wants yet another icon, another platform to go into. They want to go into their UKG, UltiPro. They want to go into their success factors. They want to go into their Workday, their ADP, their Taleo, their iSIMS, all of their recruiting modules. They want to be able to have the funnel of candidates where they are in the stage, and click on the person's name, and through within that their own platform that's already being used at your company, they want to just hit send and send a link that the candidate can then take the assessment, and 5 candidates, 100, 1,000, where it's really simple. They can even send it to 1,000 at one moment with one button. They all take it, all the results get instantly uploaded into, as they take it, that first 2 days, you get the 500 people, the results are there, and that it ranks people based on the fit with either the team, the manager, or the things they're looking for in the specific role, or versus high performers, whatever the target benchmark is, whether they're looking for similar or different to guarantee diversity of thought, that should all be very easy in a checkbox way, downloaded from the current company culture and what works and what doesn't, so that with a push of the button, they could get 500 people to take an assessment on a Monday, Tuesday, and by Wednesday already know the 5 people that they should interview, bypassing the middle part of the process of recruiting, which are tons of phone screens and face-to-face video interviews that often lead to a biased outcome. If your B, M, or W, or complete BMW psychometric tool is properly built in with integrations into your current platforms, you will save 80% of the process and end up with a better hire, a more high performing hire that's aligned to the intention of the culture you're looking for, whether it is to clone, that's one way of fitting, or whether it is to guarantee diversity of thought, that's another fit. You know, fit is 2 things, right? I married a woman who's very different from me, and we fit great together and we work. I've also dated before my marriage women who were just like me, okay? And that was also a great fit. It didn't work out for that for other reasons, but you can have fit being either very similar or very different. Thank you. Next. So let's go through the steps or the process you guys should think in your minds when you're doing recruiting with psychometrics and technology. If you have the right platform, you'll be able to quickly measure for your own employees, your current employees, the behaviors, the motivators, the work energizers of a team, or let's say of 20,000 workers in a manufacturing plant, which we have a client that did that, the top 1,000, the mid 10,000, and the bottom 10,000, right? And the system then quickly, step 2, defines what are those performance metrics for those manufacturing workers or for a sales team. So it'll quickly tell you what is explaining performance for high performers versus low performers. You've now captured the secret sauce of what works in your company. Now, if your assessment tool and psychometric tool can't do that with the current employees and give you those insights, don't use it for hiring because you'll never get the power of what psychometrics can do. Step 3, identify these critical BMW factors of those succeeding, okay? Or for a team, if you're looking not for just high performers, but looking on a team, how best to optimize diversity of thought, you can actually get the results of what you currently have so that when you hire, you can hire the opposite or the complement, or what we call culture add. So then you step forward, you set the target cultures for any roles or teams and develop action plans based on those performers or on that composition of the team. Next. Step 5, you identify the open roles you need. You create those job objectives, right? You still need the skills piece. Psychometrics don't help you figure out if the person worked at the right industry, has their, CPA if it's an accounting role. That you still have to do on your own to source some of those candidates. But step 6, once you found the ones with the right skills for the job, if that's the type of job it is, then you use the tool to send out a link to give all those candidates the culture assessment fit. And on step 7, the system then filters and helps you select. It doesn't tell you these are the only 3. It ranks everyone high to low, right? Green, yellow, orange, red, 4 different tiers of those that are really like the people you're trying to target for high performance in sales or for manufacturing or for that retailer or that QSR, as well as those that might be for a white collar role at a corporate headquarters, the candidates that are the best for adding culture if you want a diverse culture in that team, and anywhere in the middle. Next. Here's an example of what a typical assessment personality test kind of can deliver for an individual, both the employee or the applicant candidate. Again, 90% focus on the orange part in the top third, behaviors. In this case, these are my results. You can quickly read the bullets, or you can see on the right a visual representation that shows that on the left side are all the qualities of behaviors that are more stability-oriented people. On the right side are people who are more change-oriented. As you can see, my profile shows that my natural tendency is to be very deliberate and very steady. Those are the 2 extremes in my profile where I index really high. It doesn't mean I have not learned how to be decisive nor learned how to be spontaneous. Our tool also does not assume that people are only one way. Our tool throws out interview guides, for instance, for people applying, that if in the case of company ABC was looking for a decisive person, it would just say Juan is not decisive naturally, but if you interview Juan, the tool then creates a question that's been written by IO psychologists that actually will confirm if Juan has learned how to be decisive. And so there are questions and interview guides for every metric where there's a gap between what you're looking for in the candidate to verify, confirm, or deny that this is actually a weakness or not, or that the person has not learned that. Second area, motivators. This is again like 10% of tools out there. In this case, it shows that I'm more helping and freedom than any other qualities. It seems like the top left half and the bottom right half of the visual bar graph shows that I'm kind of motivated by both being of service. I'm helping, supporting, I'm knowledge-based, but I'm also quite innovative where, I'm a free thinker. I do care about making money, and I have very unique perspectives. And so there's a balance there for my profile. And lastly, where Humantelligence offers this third leg, which most self-awareness tools, and that's what most psychometric tools have been for 50 years, where they stop is how does the environment impact me? Left side being an environment that's systematic, right side on that graph, creative. I actually am more motivated and given energy by environments with new solutions, as well as variety on the creative side, but I like working with facts and where there's structure. And so that combination is kind of my results. Now that's for one person at the company or applying. It's really where you aggregate several people and all of their results, where you start to get powerful insights to improve your hiring. Next. So for example, when you aggregate on this example, this team, okay, the insights around this team culture on the left, if you see the motivators, freedom and helping are the dominant two. You can see they're kind of in a lighter blue color. I'll try to draw on this. Let me see if I can figure that out. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not sure I can draw on this.
Well, I don't think you'll be able to draw unless you're the presenter, since I'm
okay, that's fine.
So during your live demo later, you'll be able to draw.
And Vita, can you see my cursor at least?
No, but if you want to annotate, I will move the cursor around.
No, that's okay. That'd be too complicated. Okay, that's fine. So I'll describe what I'm reading or looking. So on the left chart, you can see the two blue long bars, the two longest for helping and freedom. Okay, those two are where we are extreme in our team. There are areas of our team where we don't have any people who are practical, where we don't have any people who are order. We have very few service and belonging. So for this team of this company, when we saw this, we decided to not just interview, go through 50 resumes for a role, interview 12, then get to the final 5 and do the whole team and go with who we like. That's the old model. This model, we said, let's filter for people in this next hire. We were hiring a technology person who actually is practical, who's service and belonging oriented as extremes. And then we got down to the final 4. And at that case, we then hired one of the 4 who was the strongest, but all who would add culture, add value to our team. On the right side, you have work styles, right? We talked behaviors, motivators, work styles. This is the same team. You can see on the right side, almost everyone is extremely creative. And that was great for us our first 4 years. However, we weren't scaling. We weren't kind of being able to onboard 20 customers in a week. We would only be able to do 1 a week. We weren't able to get partner contracts the same day. Well, why? It's because everybody was about consistently doing things different, new, with variety. There was nobody who knew how to do things in a systematic way, the left side, with proven methods, predictability, and structure. So of course, we started to hire some more people and then also train our current employees to be more systematic. These are ways that Psychometrics can help not only your current employees be what you need intentionally, but also when you hire to fill those gaps, for instance, on the work styles, to hire people who are systematic to add that diversity of thought to our team. Next. You can also improve inclusion daily, okay, and belonging daily. How's that? A tool like this allows you to break down the barriers so you don't even know are there, right? You learn how to communicate with someone who's different from you. You get these tips in collaboration when you work with new people. You onboard a new candidate and instantly you see that, for example, if Jacqueline Ingross is the new candidate and Stephanie Hassel's the manager, you see where they're similar and where they're different in terms of their business personas, in terms of their work styles, how they learn. All this is fed to people either as an email when they start working together, in the interview process as an interview guide, or we've now integrated with Outlook and email and chat so that any collaboration tool you use, you can actually get tips by just clicking on someone's name in the email, going into a calendar invite and seeing the culture of the meeting. This is transformational where everyone's doing muscle memory practice on being inclusive and understanding someone before they write to them, before they go to a meeting with them, before they call them, before they Slack them or chat them or Teams them. This changes and moves the needle in a very subtle, nuanced, but powerful way on a day-to-day, methodology, really, that we call EQ everywhere. Next. So for hiring, here's a screenshot. So make sure that your psychometric tools can kind of lay out lots of candidates in a quick way to assess them from their assessment results. If the assessment tool you're using forces you to open up a PDF and read through a 10-page document and translate yourself if that person's a good fit or not for the role, the team, or the future culture of what you're looking to hire, you're probably not going to be able to scale. That's why this presentation is around psychometric tools with technology. Gone are the days that you're going to have the time to use just the psychometric tool. It needs to be integrated into your own systems so that you can quickly go through, in this case, the different phases here. You can see under the title Chief Technology Officer, new applicant, phone screen, interview, final. Once you click on each of those, it shows you where the candidates are. But under new applicants, you might have 400. You can just click on the column that shows manager, team, ideal profile. So that's kind of maybe a target culture you're shooting for. That's the example where I was looking for people whose work styles were not so creative and innovative, but more structured, okay? And then high performers, you can just click on that. If it's maybe a manufacturing plant and you want all applicants to compare against your top 20 performers, it aggregates their insights, and then it'll tell you these are the top of 1,000 applicants, these are the top. And so you just can click and see your top 5 to 10 to interview. Okay, and then there's an action button at the far right, which gives you access to that individual compared to the team, a side by side, that individual compared to any other employee that maybe they're going to work a lot together, a side by side of that individual and the manager, that side by side with that individual and high performers, and then the gaps and questions to help and aid recruiters and talent acquisition staff to better interview people based on data and real psychometric questions, not based on their opinions or their biased projections of people they've never met before. Next. So recruiting with intention, you're going to hear a lot more about intentional cultures, recruiting with intention, managing teams with intention, Humantelligence, and some other psychometric tools out there that have gone into software as a service, not many of them, but a few of them, they are going to allow you to recruit intentionally at the individual level, at the team level, at the department or company level, whether you want to clone, if that's how you define fit, or whether you want to add culture, meaning guarantee something different, if that's how you define fit. Okay, both are fit. Fit is not one size fits all. Fit is, for some people it's a smug shoe and some people it's a longer free-flowing shoe, right? Fit is not the same for every organization and every team. And once your team and your performers have been measured, that data should be applied and pulled in from the cloud on your recruiting or applicant tracking side. Again, if the psychometric tools you're using today can't assess and give you quick access to the insights of existing populations, whether it's all your sales or all your manufacturing people and those high performers, or your team by team for your talent acquisition folks to pull in that data to give and compare against candidates, then they're probably not assessments that are leveraging technology that's useful. Next. Customize your ideal profile. So here's where you can say, and this is the example I gave earlier on my team, this example shows that the company's motivators are right in the middle, half the team's self-reliant, half the team's helping. Well, what if I want the team, it's a service-oriented industry, and we need to be much more helping and less independent thinkers and self-starters, but real helpers? You actually just move this little bar over, and then it'll show you for all your current employees who can work at it better, and it gives a plan for them. But also when you hire, it'll only show you people who are at that level in terms of what's natural and what they enjoy in terms of being helping. Next. So you quickly get a scorecard and an index 0 to 100 against 4 possible comparisons in the system, right? So the recruiter just gives the link to the candidates. They take this 12-minute test, and then within seconds of being done, the recruiter can see that candidate's score, similarity score. High is very similar, low is very different to either A, the first column, the manager, in this case 70% similar, B, the team, okay, 80% in this example, and then maybe to a target culture of where we want to head as a team, which I gave that example where we were changing, 64 in this case, and then maybe compared to the high performers, in this case, 68. And so the recruiter then determines with the hiring manager which is the ratio of importance, right? Some people hire just to clone high performers. They look at the last column. Some people look at just the team and they want to make sure it's a 20 or 30 so it complements the team. Some people just think, okay, this person, they're going to live or die by the manager relationship. That should be high. If not, everybody gets fired, right? Or there's a target culture. And so it depends what you're looking for and how you use this data, because psychometrics also can be wrongly used if it's not a full snapshot in addition to other things you're using for hiring. Next. So with all this, you can get high quality hires, stronger alignment, less bias. You can measure teams to get a baseline. 2, you can manage with insights into their habits and motivations for existing and onboarding candidates. And you can hire candidates that will align to that strategic culture you're trying to create, your quote, intentional culture. All of this does lead to an improved overall ROI that we have found in every one of our clients that use it for recruiting. Next. Okay, so I will share my screen now. Vida, I think, how do I grab it, or do you assign me the screen?
So I'm making you the presenter now so that we can see a live demo from you, Juan, and your screen should be sharing.
Perfect, okay. Okay, do you see it, Vida?
I do. You are good to go.
Okay, so we have a lot of different modules here, as you can see on the left. I'm only going to show you the module for recruiting. Later, if you're interested, you reach out to us. We have modules where you can see, team culture for any team. So, views like this, right, where you can see, the culture of the team as people, diversity charts, where the clusters of people sit, if there's friction between two people, why this person here, Zach, might be not getting along with me, et cetera, right? You can see the motivators of teams. You can also see the bar chart bubble. You can see the personas of a team. You can take culture snapshots. You can see how a team is with remote work. Here it's a 52. And then you can focus on who you're going to help with remote work, right? You don't need to work with these. These people all are great, 0 to 100. They're all naturally good at working remote psychometrically. So this is a cool way of how psychometrics can be used for helping with remote work as well, and maybe focus on these top employees here, Dan, Jarvis, et cetera, that are at 36, and you can see them versus what would be good for remote work and why, and then tips on how to work. So all these neat things you can get comparing two groups for hiring. For instance, you can look at the data for an entire group. So here's 200 people. You can see that group culture, the same visualizations for the behaviors, motor work styles. You can see personas for 200, 3,000, 5,000 people. Your CEO, you can now see what are the 3 main organizational identities at your organization, right? All of this is important to know, and it can be pulled from for the positions, for your recruiting. So your recruiters would only really see talent fit, and they'd be able to pull all these insights around teams, high performers, comparisons. Actually, they'd be able to get the data of a comparison, for example, high performing salespeople and high performing and low performers. They'd be able to get this information to hire the next salesperson, because now they're going to know, okay, here on the left, and these are behaviors here, but here on the left for behaviors are our high performers. Here are the behaviors of low performers. And so they can see, actually, they'll be able to see, I like seeing the bar chart, they'll be able to see quickly, and this they can pull it in the recruiting process. They're going to be able to see that for high performers behaviors, all the high performers seem to be decisive and outgoing in terms of those behaviors. The low performers, less so. They're not decisive and outgoing on the whole. They're really deliberate and reflective. This gets captured and put into this module over here so that you can use that insight to hire better without even interviewing. And so, for instance, motivators, high performers are self-reliant, and influencers where the low performers are not, and then even work energizers. It seems like the work energizers who are proven methods, who like predictability, perform better than the others. And so you then go into positions, okay? You create a job that you're looking to hire as the recruiter, and when you set it up, it's going to ask you basic information like any system will, like the position code, all these things, hiring manager, location, etc. And then here's the key piece, benchmarks. This is the fit piece, the culture fit. Whether it's similar or you're looking different, this is the holy grail of hiring. This is the moment you've all been waiting for, to quote the WWF guy who did the LA game the other day. You can actually, as a recruiter, you don't want recruiters to have to think too much. They don't like adding extra steps in a process. I was a recruiter for 15 years. I built this platform specifically for recruiting to access psychometrics and personality comparisons from the cloud to make the recruiter's job easier and faster. And so they automatically, when they put in the manager's name up here, it automatically defaults to the manager. So now applying, you'll see a comparison with manager. It defaults to that manager's team culture, which you saw my team culture. The recruiter, talent acquisition person doesn't have to do anything. And it'll default, if it's been done already by the manager, it'll default to the custom target profile 1 of team culture, what they're looking for, that intentional culture. And then 2, you can also set a custom profile, for instance, high performing employees in sales. So that comparison, you can actually keep and pull high performing salespeople or high performing baristas at Starbucks in this region, or high performing manufacturer workers, etc. Or people with the values we're looking for in the company, to find more of those. You save it, and now you go to the role, and you can send the link out through ADP, Workday, SuccessFactors. If you're interested, our sales team can show you what that looks like through your own iCIMS, Taleo, ADP modules for recruiting. But you'll be able to access these screens and these rankings and these scores through your systems. And in this visualization, you have the different candidates applying by phase. And so now each person who applies takes the assessment, and now as the recruiter, I can see that, for example, Elisa, I get to see her personas quickly, but I get to see that the manager is only a 59 fit. Okay, in the past, the manager wouldn't put Elisa through. The team's only 60, so, right, out of 100. But guess what? That target culture that they're looking for, target 1, Elisa's a great fit, okay? Maybe doesn't have the values of the other group, but we're going to go with the target culture being the most important metric. And so for this candidate, they would actually move her through to the next round. They would click here, move through to the next round, the phone screen stage, and save time by not interviewing the others and going straight to the next round, where they have other people they've assessed. Now, some of the things that they can do in this platform is you can see comparisons of Elisa or Raimundo with a specific candidate. For example, Irma. How is Raimundo going to work with Irma? They're going to work a lot together. You click here, you can download the results over here on the right. Okay, and you can see how Raimundo and Irma are going to work well together or not. The personas of Raimundo on the left, the candidate, and Irma, the person who works there. You can see where there's going to be friction or where there are complements, right? Friction could be good or it could be complementary. Okay, where they're similar and where they're different. Okay, you can also look at Raimundo versus the team. Again, you can download this and send this to the team hiring manager, the team leader, and see where they're similar and different in all the different areas and what kind of challenges might exist for people to work together like that on a team like that. You can also see the comparison with the manager, specifically with me, for instance, in this case, and where we're similar and different, and get the report as well. You can also see the difference with the custom profile. Let's say that target culture, right? We're only going to hire someone who complements the team. Okay, where does this person complement the team? Where do they not? Is it a good fit? You also get interview guides. Okay, and so if we go back, you can see an interview guide for this person, for instance, and there's explanation, but then you get into the top opportunities for this person, the challenges. So these are all the concerns that the recruiter already knows without having even interviewed them, as well as their personas. And then it pulls out the top 2 gaps between what the company wants, right? This is the target. They want someone who's more leaning flexible than structure, and where Genevieve is. And because of that gap, the system gives the recruiter a question that's been psychometrically proven to get to the answer that you're looking for, to see if they've been able to learn how to be more flexible. Okay. And so it kind of doesn't assume that someone can't be those things. It basically gives the chance of the candidate to answer a question that explains if they have or have not learned how to be that way in a work environment. And so it goes through and shows also the top 2 alignments, in this case, these 2 here. I think that's probably good for now. Vita, you can take back the screen. That's, I think, enough of the demo. That leaves us, as we had planned, for 15 minutes for questions.
All right, great. You should all be seeing my screen again. We've got one more slide before the Q&A, and then we can go into that, which just mentions a couple of our clients. So let's move on to the Q&A. So we have a couple questions, 2 for you, Juan, and then we can wrap things up. The first one goes around culture and reads, how often does culture change after it's been initially analyzed? And following up on that, how often do you recommend the assessment be retaken or the culture be reassessed?
Okay, great question. Sounds like we have an IO psychologist or someone who just loves the field in the audience. So I'll start with your second one. Because we don't charge for the assessment, we charge for the platform. Your employees can take it every day if they want. Now, there's not that much change every day. I'm being facetious, but usually they take it once a year. Okay, or we recommend companies giving it to employees when they join a new team, like 3 months after the new team, or they have a new role at the company. Those types of experiences do change someone's behaviors, definitely their work styles, and you'll be shocked. Even motivations and values. Yes, people's values and motivations do change as adults, depending on their boss, their team, and the roles they have at a company. So to your first question, how often does culture change? Well, it depends on the company, the team, and the group, right? So, if you look at a startup, the culture is not going to change every day, every week, every month for the first 2-3 years. However, when they get to a different phase, usually, and the studies show, going from 0 to 1 million in revenue is like one phase of a startup, right? It's also where they get capital raise, right? From pre-revenue to 1 million, you become pre-Series A or Series A. And so you've now proven the product. It's a different skill set. It's a different challenge. And so a startup actually, whether they change culture or not, they need to change culture to go from 1 million to 10 million. And then going from 10 million to 100 million is another phase where most companies fail. So you have failure rates at the 1, the 10, and 100 million going to a billion. That's why many CEOs change out their CFOs or CMOs, all the top management, at that 1, 10, 100, 1 billion. I was lucky enough to be at a company that in 3 years went from 1 to 10 to 100 to 1 billion to 3 billion. It was called Siebel Systems. I got to see how that culture changed, and it was a very different company at each phase. Large companies, it's hard to say that Coca-Cola worldwide, their culture is going to be drastically changing, but the people who work on a team in Atlanta are probably not interacting with the people at Coca-Cola in China every week. So it's really not a question of the company culture and what's on the website, because with data, companies realize that there is not one culture at an organization. Coca-Cola's finance and accounting team has very different behaviors and work styles, and even sometimes values, than the marketing team at Coca-Cola, than the sales team. So culture is actually quite unique by function. And then if you look at Starbucks, even by office or location, store unit, the baristas here in Miami, where I live, in Hialeah, which is a very kind of, just call it very Latin neighborhood, it's all Latin customers, Latin employees, and what Net Promoter Score of great service is probably spending 10 minutes in the store, 15 possibly, chatting with the cashier register, them asking personal questions, grabbing your baby, putting them in the air and saying, "How beautiful kid," squeezing their cheeks, touching customers, touching customer kids, asking personal questions. That could be great customer service here in Hialeah for Starbucks. And that's a certain culture in terms of behaviors, what values and motivators they have, and what work styles. That same high performing team goes to New York City, where I lived for 5 years, and they're put in charge of a Starbucks store there, where people want to go in 1 minute, not talk to you as a barista, and just get their product and leave. That store could be the worst performing store with the same team. So culture, even in the same job as a barista at the same company, could be very different. So culture is very difficult. Measurement and data will now allow you to know those differences and know when culture should change. The best example for a large company is if GE is selling $2 million MRI medical equipment products that you need a salesperson who's like R&D, it's a 7-8 month process. They need to understand to work with 20 different groups, a really complex sell. And now they're saying, oh, we just bought a medical device company and we're selling little things instead of $2 million a product for $2 a product, and we're going to close these on one call. Well, guess what? The culture of that division that was selling the big medical products is going to have to change to sell the small medical products in a faster environment. And so, as you can say, every year your company will change their strategy, their goals, and their measures. If a company does not change strategy, they will become obsolete. So to the ultimate answer of your question, every time a company changes strategy, they need to use a tool like this to measure the culture they currently have at that inflection point, usually in January or February, the beginning of the year, and say, is this culture we've had for the last 24 months the right culture for this change in strategy? Typically, the answer is no. It doesn't mean you need to fire people, but you need to show people where they are on that journey for this new intentional culture, team by team, division by division, product line by product line, and then slowly change the culture to support that new strategy. Culture measurement and culture alignment will start to become part of the annual planning process. For many 3 or 4 years, it might not be needed to change drastically. However, every 3 or 4 years, if a company is not changing strategy significantly, they're probably not agile and adapting to the macroeconomic industry needed changes, and they're probably not going to succeed. I'll leave it at that. Next question.
Great. I love the anecdotal geographic answers to that. So our last question is there an example of companies using this Humantelligence approach to onboarding that reduces turnover?
Yeah, the best example, I mean, we have many, right? So where it's really easy, right? If you're using it for hiring at the corporate level, like Dollar General, Coca-Cola, Aflac, Bank of the West, you're hiring it for teams and you're looking more for diversity of thought, okay? That necessarily, we don't have the data to say it reduces turnover. In that case, we have the data that shows hiring for diversity of thought at headquarters and on project teams actually improves performance and revenue. So that's the proof on hiring for diversity of thought. Now, there are specific cases where you do want to clone what works. So we've had call centers that do 8,000 assessments a month. We have a manufacturing company that does furniture, one of the largest in the world, that has 20,000 employees. They were losing thousands a month and hiring 1,000 a month, 100% turnover, right? So between call centers, manufacturing, restaurant, we have a client that was losing 40% of employees every month, okay? We stopped all that cold because we tested the high performers, we tested the low performers, and then they stopped doing interviews for those restaurant service workers, like the waiters and things. They stopped doing interviews for the manufacturing workers on the store floor, and they stopped doing interviews for the call center agents. And they saved tons of time. They were able to use our tool and give it to thousands more people, hundreds in the case of the restaurant, but thousands in the call center manufacturing environments. broader group, and we're able to zero in on those people who are similar, like the already existing high performers. And in all those examples, they cut turnover by at least 40%. The manufacturing company saved $10 million a year. The call center company saved $3 million a year and showed a 47% increase in revenue generated by those call centers, which weren't just customer support, but also upselling sales call center agents. And then the restaurant went from the worst performing restaurant in a city with like 1 Yelp star to 4.7 on Yelp and turnover of less than 10%. So those are 3 very distinct industries with very clear ROI on using a psychometric to give it to many, many more applicants, but also to then zero in and save time 80% of the time to hire quicker, than led to lower turnover and better results.
Okay, great. Thank you for those answers, Juan. So that's all the questions that we have in the GoToWebinar queue. If any of you attending think of questions, feel free to reach out to either of us directly. But I'd like to thank you for attending today's webinar, and thank you, Juan, for presenting.
Yeah, and just so you know, we are integrated into UKG recruiting module, SuccessFactors recruiting module, ADP, iCIMS, Taleo, most of the major platforms. Our tool's already been integrated, so you literally will just turn on a feature and you'll be able to have access to everything I showed you. Thanks so much for your time, everyone. Bye.
All right, great. Everybody have a lovely rest of your day.